Welcome to freedivorce.com.
This is Christina.
This is Ed. Today we're going to talk about why people get divorced. I've been a divorce lawyer for over 40 years. During that time, I've come to learn some of the most common reasons why marriages fail and people get divorced.
Ed, when someone comes to see you for a divorce, do you ask them why they're getting divorced?
No, I don't ask my clients why they want a divorce. I don't ask because California is a no-fault divorce state. From a legal standpoint, the grounds for getting a divorce in California is almost always irreconcilable differences. Irreconcilable differences simply means that there are problems with the marital relationship that have caused an irremediable breakdown of the marriage, and there's no possibility of saving the marriage through counseling or other means. What that language boils down to is simply that one person wants out of the marriage. Since California is a no-fault divorce state, as a lawyer, I don't need to explain to the court what caused the breakdown of the marriage. The court never makes any inquiry as to what caused the irreconcilable differences. Since I don't need to know what caused the irreconcilable differences, I don't ask clients why they want a divorce.
Do your clients tell you why they are getting a divorce even though you don't ask?
About 80% of my clients tell me why they're getting a divorce. The other 20% never volunteer that information.
What are the reasons why people get divorced?
Before I answer that question, I think there's a more difficult question. Why do many people who are in terrible marriages not file for divorce?
What do you mean?
I'll give you just a few examples. It's not unusual at all for a client that has been married for 20 or 30 years to tell me that they have not had any sexual relations with their spouse for 1 or more decades. I've even divorced a number of clients that were married for over 10 years but had never consummated their marriage. I've had many clients come to see me for a divorce with obvious injuries such as a black eye, a broken nose, broken arm, burns, bruises, and other injuries. These clients oftentimes describe years of repeated physical, verbal, and mental abuse that they have endured before finally deciding to get a divorce. Then, there are clients that have been married for a very long time, tell me that they have rarely spoken to their spouse for a period of years. These people tend to sleep in separate bedrooms, eat meals separately, keep their finances separate, and communicate when absolutely necessary by email or by passing notes back and forth. It's also very common for clients to describe marriages where their spouse routinely engages in multiple extramarital affairs. I hear all of these stories of really horrific marriages, and I ask myself why it took a client so many years to finally decide to pull the trigger and start the divorce process. It's clear to me there are certainly lots of terrible marriages where parties never get divorced and just endure their extremely unpleasant situations for their entire lives. There are lots and lots of married people who are really unhappy but never do anything to end their marriage. It's tragic.
Why do people in bad marriages stay married?
I never ask clients that question. Although I don't ask, oftentimes clients will volunteer this information. Sometimes clients say they are staying in marriages for the sake of the children, postponing the divorce until the children are out of high school. If you're in a really bad marriage, I'm not sure you're doing the children any favors by staying married, particularly if you're dealing with domestic violence. Sometimes people stay in bad marriages because of finances. People are afraid they won't be able to survive from a financial standpoint if they divorce. Other people don't divorce because of their religious beliefs. Some people don't divorce for cultural reasons. I've done a lot of divorces for people that moved to the United States from foreign countries. In some cultures, divorce is simply not acceptable. On numerous occasions, I have filed divorce petitions only to have my client later ask me to dismiss the divorce action because family members have pressured them to cancel the divorce. I also think a lot of people don't divorce because they just get accustomed to being in a bad situation. It's kind of like the frog sitting in a pot of water that is gradually heated on a stove. The water keeps getting hotter, but the frog never jumps out until in the end it's cooked. There are all kinds of reasons why people stay in bad marriages. If you find yourself in a bad marriage, you want to get out, but you're not following through with the divorce, you should probably be talking to a therapist to understand why you're staying in that relationship and perhaps to help you make a decision to either implement changes to improve the marriage or decide to take action to end the marriage.
Can you list some of the most common reasons why people get divorced?
Infidelity is a common reason. Either their spouse is having an affair and refuses to end the relationship, or my client is the one having an affair and wants to divorce his or her spouse so they can carry on their relationship with the new girlfriend or the new boyfriend. Although infidelity is very common, oftentimes a spouse is willing to forgive or at least ignore one or two extramarital affairs, particularly if the parties have children. Another issue is addiction issues. Alcohol and drugs destroy so many marriages. Addiction issues frequently don't arise until after a couple has been married for a number of years. Most couples will attempt to deal with the addiction before filing for divorce. A spouse may join AA or go through one or more treatment programs. Sadly, a huge number of people just can't overcome their addiction. I've had clients lose their jobs, their houses, their marriages, and custody of their children because they can't control an addiction. I've even had clients with severe alcohol problems literally drink themselves to death. I've witnessed people go from a good marriage with a high-paying job and a nice home to being homeless due to drug addiction. Addiction to methamphetamine is something I frequently encounter. Alcohol and drug addiction, both prescription drugs and street drugs, is an enormous problem in our society that simply destroys so many families. Other types of addiction we see as divorce lawyers are steroids, gambling, and porn, which leads to the same tragic results. Domestic violence is a very common reason for divorce. Domestic violence, and we're talking both mental abuse and physical abuse, is unbelievably pervasive. If you look at the number of court cases that are opened each year in California, there are more filings for domestic violence restraining orders than filings for divorce. If you're the victim of domestic violence, you need to get out of the marriage. Start by watching our 7-part domestic violence video series on freedivorce.com. Financial issues is another reason for divorce. Divorce due to financial issues can take many forms. Some common examples are as follows. One spouse is out of control when it comes to making charges on credit cards, forcing the parties into one or more bankruptcies. Another example of a financial issue causing a divorce is where one spouse works full-time while the other spouse can't hold a job or refuses to seek employment. A similar example is where a spouse operates a business that loses money year after year, yet the spouse refuses to shut down the business. The other spouse files for divorce to salvage their half of the remaining community assets. Arguments over money are a leading cause of divorce. Another common reason for divorce is one party is gay. I think the public would be amazed at the number of people that have been married for years or even decades, and then one spouse announces that they want a divorce because they're gay. Another reason is people change. A couple may get married in their early or mid-20s and stay married for 10, 20, or 30 years. Over that time period, both people change. Certainly, people change physically. If you've ever attended a 30-year high school reunion, you know that good looks fade, and oftentimes the change in physical appearance can be dramatic. If a marriage is going to go the distance, it has to be based on something more than physical attraction. Physical changes that can strain a marriage can be because of serious long-term health issues. I've had clients file for divorce because they don't want to be married to someone who is in really poor health. People change physically over time, but they also change mentally, emotionally, and socially. None of us is the same person at 45 that we were when we were 25. You may have loved the person your spouse was at age 25, but find you are married to someone who is very different 20 years later. You may no longer love the spouse because they have changed or you have changed over the years. Couples sometimes grow or evolve in different directions over time and eventually find that they no longer have common interests or no longer want the same things out of life. If the differences become too large, the marriage fails.
Do you have any advice for people that are contemplating getting married?
I do. First, you want to make sure you really know the person you are about to marry. Live with that person for at least a year before getting engaged. Living together for 2 or 3 years would be much better. If the two of you are having serious problems when you're just living together, those problems are going to get 5 times as bad after you're married and 10 times as bad after you have children. If you're thinking about getting married, sit down and talk to your partner about what you both want out of life, what's important to you, what your goals are, and what your expectations are in terms of the marriage. You want to marry someone who is on the same page as you when it comes to what you want out of life. It's going to be a lot easier if you marry someone that shares your values and is interested in many of the same things that you're interested in. There's that old saying that opposites attract. I don't think marrying someone that is the opposite of you is a good formula for a long-lasting marriage. Before you get married, you and your partner should absolutely talk about your expectations regarding children. Do you both want children? How many children do each of you want? When do you want to start having children? If you both want children, discuss each of your expectations regarding employment after the children are born. Before you get married, you and your partner should also talk about how you expect to handle your finances. Are you going to pool your earnings? A surprising number of married couples keep separate finances. Discuss how you're going to manage your finances. Discuss your financial goals. You need to talk about these types of major issues before you get married. Some other advice. Don't marry someone who is a control freak. If your partner is the kind of person that needs to be in control of everything and everyone, run. Don't marry someone who has problems controlling their temper. Don't marry someone who is dishonest, selfish, immature, complains a lot, or is generally an unhappy person. Look for a spouse that is willing to make compromises, someone that is easygoing. Find someone that is interesting and with whom you enjoy spending time. Most importantly, you want to marry someone that is a loving and caring person. Finally, keep in mind that when you marry someone, you are becoming part of that person's family, which oftentimes means you're going to be pulled into all of the problems that go along with that family.
I'm sure our viewers have their own advice for persons contemplating marriage. Please share your thoughts in the comments section. Also, feel free to weigh in on why you think people get divorced and why you think people stay in horrible marriages. In our next video, we will cover another topic that anyone who is about to get married should seriously consider: premarital agreements.
If you found this video helpful, please subscribe to our YouTube channel because subscribing will make it easier for other people to find this video.
If you visit our website, freedivorce.com, by clicking the link below, you will find over 70 free tutorial videos that will walk you through the process of how to do your own divorce, how to modify court orders, and how to obtain domestic violence restraining orders. Our website also has all of the Judicial Council court forms you will need for free in a fillable format.
This has been a presentation by freedivorce.com.